What's up? So remember when we thought Rhythm of War was the most Cosmere we could ever get? Well, now we have the Lost Metal, and it has just hit us over the head with a sledgehammer of how much Cosmere material there is. Now, I think we were all expecting that. We knew the Lost Metal was going to be a Cosmere-rich book, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. Full disclosure, I finished reading this book an hour ago, and I just read it all in one day. My brain feels very squished. But I'm very excited to talk about all the Cosmere stuff. Let's start with some small stuff. First and foremost, Hoid is just here. He's Hoid. Remember when we used to have to look hard for Hoid and we'd be excited when we saw him? Now he's just here by name. I do think it's very interesting to see him so invested in keeping Wax alive and being wherever he is, which feels something that is very in line with what Harmony wants. We know that Hoid is for himself first and foremost, and I wonder why keeping Wax alive is so important to him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's theorize about that. The Cosmere and World Hoppers are also mentioned several times. Now, a lot of us who have been in the known for a while have noticed World Hoppers for a long time. We've known the Cosmere is connected. I do love, though, that Sanderson is just spelling it out within the novel, and I'll touch more on that later. Finally, one more thing that didn't really fit into any of my other categories is what's Chowta doing on Scadrial? Isn't that just a Rosharian food? Did Hoid bring it over because he loves street food? Or is there another World Hopper in our midst? So let's talk about Ghostbloods here. There is so much Ghostblood content. Just as a side note, if you see me looking down, I'm just referencing my notes as I did just finish it today. It's not all like straight in my head. So the 3 triangle symbol right away I noticed, but it was spelled out for us later. We knew it was the Ghostbloods. One thing I don't think we knew is that the 3 triangles represented the flower that Mare had, and I thought that was a really nice, interesting detail that we haven't seen before. We also have just so many cool people involved with the Ghostbloods. Now, I did think it was interesting that Kelsier was finally named outright. I don't think in any other book he was. Obviously, we knew it was Kelsier, but he'd only been referred to as the Survivor or Thaddecar. I don't think ever indirectly said, like, Kelsier is the leader of the Ghostbloods. So even though we all knew it, I thought it was interesting that it was finally spelled out on paper. And of course, we get Shy. Popular opinion, but The Emperor's Soul is in my top 5 Sanderson books, so it was very exciting to see Shy. Now, I will admit I was kind of expecting her to show up because I had been on some of the online forums and people were thinking that it was Shy based on stuff Sanderson had said, but I did notice because she talked a lot about art, and then obviously it was confirmed when she brought out soul stamps, and later when she used her soul stamp to turn into someone that she called herself Shy. I love her, and I'm very excited to see more of her. We also meet Twin Soul, who I don't think we've met any of this kind of magic before in the Cosmere. They do talk a lot about ether, and I'm wondering if this is connected to that unpublished work, Ether of the Night, that Sanderson has. It seems like it because it's like he mentions a brother and ether and all that stuff. I do think it's very interesting that he talks a lot about like this potential god, and he talks about how his powers predate the Shattering, and in his opinion, even predate Adonalasium. So I don't know any more personally about this. I couldn't find anything else. I think this is something new to us. Codename obviously seems to be from Cell since she has a Sion. I think she might be related to somebody in Elantris. You guys tell me below. I'll admittedly only read Elantris once, so I kind of don't remember the details as well as I remember the details of other things that I've read several times, but I think she's related to someone there. Delaville? I don't listen to the audiobooks. The person at the end who wanted to off Marcy is from Silverlight, and I think they're the one who mentions having a sister in Roshar, who I think is also working for the Ghostbloods. Iatil? I'll put her name here. I think they're related. They're both of South Scadrial descent because they have the masks. One of the most interesting implications for me of the Ghostbloods in The Lost Metal is that they seem to be portrayed very differently than they are portrayed in the Stormlight Archive. In the Stormlight Archive, the Ghostbloods as an institution feel very ominous. It feels very dangerous for Shallan to join them. It feels like they are almost evil, villainous, just a very different cast, where in this book, they feel a lot more open and way less scary, much friendlier. And I think that's very interesting, the disparity between how they are portrayed. I wonder if this is a nod to something Sanderson has said in the past about how Kelsier was only a hero because of where he was and at the time he was, but in any other story he would probably be a villain. And I think we all recognize that in Kelsier, but it is interesting that on Scadrial his actions seem much more heroic than sinister like they do in the Stormlight Archive. Am I the only one who picked up on that? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. It interests me a lot for the future of the Ghostbloods and as we see them in different sequels and in different series. how that ends up shaking out. Let's talk about Autonomy, who is finally confirmed to be the threat to Scadrial. I thought we got a great quote from Harmony that just says, "Autonomy is driven to divide off from the rest of us, go her own way. She pushes her followers to prove themselves, and she rewards those who are bold, who survive against the odds. She respects big plans and big accomplishments." I always like when we get a thesis statement about the Shards, even though their names tell us something about them. I do like to hear within the story what that directly means for the Shard. So Autonomy is on the White Sand world. I also think she has an avatar on the 6th of the Dusk planet. Now she's sending an army of glowing people with red eyes and golden skin, and I looked so much on the Coppermind for this. I don't have this reference. Do you guys have this reference? Is this something I should know of what they are, or is it something we haven't seen yet with Autonomy? Let me know below. I actually don't know if we know what that is. Okay, let's go into some Shards, other Cosmere stuff I noticed. I think this book might be the first time Adonalesium was mentioned outright in a book. Is that right? It might have been mentioned once in the Stormlight, but I feel like that hasn't been mentioned a lot, so I thought it was interesting that it was mentioned several times in this book. We get a little bit more info about the Shards and how they're afraid of Harmony because he holds 2 Shards, and I thought that was interesting to get kind of more direct mention of that, like he's seen as a threat because of that. And we also get a direct mention of Odium here and how he's destroyed the other Shards. We also talk a little bit more about slivers and how Autonomy has avatars that function like a sliver. We also get another mention of Whimsy, although that was also mentioned in Rhythm of War as being another Shard. We also get a mention of a planet named Bejendal that can no longer be traveled to. I don't think we've heard of this Cosmere planet before, so that's a new Cosmere planet. We get talk of Nelthis, and we also get talk of the Thalian language, but those were all kind of in passing, just little Easter eggs. We also get to see a lot of magic systems. We got to see awakened things. We got to see a lot from the door, so that was kind of exciting to see all the different things on one planet. Sho Del were also mentioned. The person who was Milan's guide was one of them, and they're from the planet Yolen, which was the planet where Adonalesium was first splintered. Also, Milan is going to be a world hopper, which I'm super excited about seeing more of Milan because I love her. I hope she shows up soon in our other books. She's also going to save an island of strange red-haired people. Do we know these strange red-haired people? Are these just like Rasharians with red hair? You let me know who you think those are. Just some final thoughts. We all, I think, knew that the Lost Metal was gonna have huge Cosmere implications just because we knew that Sanderson said it had to come out before the Stormlight Archive 5. So I was very excited and I think it totally delivered. It excites me a lot that a lot of the lore we have been discussing for a long time in internet forums is making its way directly into the books. I personally really like this because I think there has been this fear that eventually the Cosmere will get to a place where it is unreadable if you haven't read all of it. And this book proved to me that so far that is not true. Because if you had only read Mistborn, Mistborn Era 1 and Mistborn Era 2, all of this would still make sense. Yes, you wouldn't understand all the Easter eggs that I just mentioned, you wouldn't know necessarily the wider picture, but everything you needed for the story would be there. You would learn there were other worlds, you would learn that there was ways to get to them, you would learn that this was becoming bigger than just Scadrial. And I think that's really cool that he is taking the time to actually put it down on paper, straight out how it is. So I think it's gonna make things a lot easier to keep track of when it's like in the official works. So I just really like that. The other thing I noticed is that Roshar is mentioned, and Roshar is mentioned in a way that makes me think it's still alive and well. Now, it was just my own little personal theory. I was really worried Roshar was gonna be like blown up in Stormlight Archive 5, and because I'm pretty sure Stormlight Archive 5 happens before Era 2, that makes me think that like Roshar as a planet is safe for the time being. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Did I misinterpret that, or do you think that's right? Okay, tell me any things I missed. I would love to hear them. Tell me your thoughts on the book. Tell me your thoughts on some of these Cosmere implications. I'm particularly interested in obviously Kelsier and the Ghostbloods and Autonomy and the Shards and what we've learned. Let's discuss theories in the comment section. And as always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading as well as other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time.